Hey, it's Mr. Naylor back again with some updates and some more information that will help you in your economic journey. Let's take a look at Unit 2 today, Foundations of Economics. This is critical. This unit is super important so you can understand principles and concepts and ideas around economics that carry on through the rest of it. So I'm going to go over some three or four of what I think are the most important things you need to understand out of this unit. They're sort of outlined in the focus notes. I can open this up for you and see. It should pop up. Well, actually, hold on. Let me pull it up in a different spot, and this will be easier for you to see what I'm going to talk about here. Um, yeah, this is good video, isn't it? Anyway, these are your Cornell notes here, and this is what this looks like. Um, and so these are the concepts we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about three basic economic questions for allocating resources. We're going to talk about needs and wants. We are going to talk about the difference between trade-offs and opportunity cost, and we're going to talk about scarcity. Those four things. So, if you have your Cornell notes, pull those out right now, and we'll work on those if you haven't done it already. But I want to show you this quick show here as we go through this. So, Unit 2 Economics, what I think are the four most important things that you can get out of this unit. All right. Number one, there are three basic questions in economics that all economic systems answer. No matter whether it's a traditional economy that, like people living out in a jungle, a small tribe of people, or whether it's a capitalist economy or socialist or communist, they all answer these three questions. And this is for whom. So, what are they going to, well, who are they going to make the things that they produce for? So, what are they going to produce? How are they going to produce those things? And who are they going to make those things for? Okay, those are the three. Sorry, three, not four. Three basic questions of economics. Okay, so those are. And so then the next thing that I wanted to talk to you about is opportunity cost and trade off. So, what is the difference? Because they seem like the same thing. Like trade off is something that you give up for a choice that you make, and opportunity cost then is also related to what you give up when you decide to do something. And since we're talking about economics here, we're talking about what does an economy do in the case of opportunity cost. What does the economy give up in order to produce something else? So there's a pretty common description. It's called guns and butter. I remember Mrs. Carter, my economics teacher in high school, always talking about guns and butter, guns and butter, guns and butter. And what it is it's related to what's called a production possibilities curve, which we'll get into in a minute. We'll get into later in the unit. But basically, what it's saying is that if an economy wants to produce two items, guns and butter, then all across this line, you can find how much or how many guns they can produce related to how much butter they can produce. So if you look at this graph here, if an economy chooses to produce 20 guns, then they can produce 900 pounds of butter. And all the way down here, if they want to produce 100 pounds of butter, they can produce 180 guns. So it's finding that balance. So basically, when we talk about opportunity cost, it is the cost of the choice that the economy makes. So the cost of making 180 guns is 800 pounds of butter. Does that make sense? Or the cost of making 20 guns, okay, is or 900 pounds of butter, pardon me, is 160 guns, if that makes sense. So trade off then is actually the course of action given up to perform the preferred course of action. So it's what you give up when you do that. So the trade off is the industry here in this case, or to put it more simply in more personal terms. So if you decide that you're going to buy new AirPods, for instance, okay, what are they, 120 $120 at Costco, a little more elsewhere. Okay. What else would you spend that $120 on? 4 tanks of gas, um, you know, a couple of dinners, dates, all those things. So those are the trade-offs. I hope that makes sense. Wants and needs. So these are this is the important thing, right? A need is something that's necessary for survival, like food, shelter, water, things like that. Whereas a want is something that you would like to have, like that new jacket you've been eyeing, or some fresh kicks, or a new iPhone, um, something like that. So those are the difference, and you have to find balance. That's what this scale is, right? You have to balance your needs and your wants, and your needs are probably more important. Although that new iPhone, almost said iPod. That new iPhone seems like it's a need, like you need that. Like my 9-year-old daughter needs money all the time, she says, but she doesn't really need it. She wants it. So that's kind of the difference there. And then the last thing, scarcity. We all experience this, don't we? Scarcity is what is the cost of, like it's the cost, well, basically it's the cost of what we use our resources. So when we use let me move myself. When we use our resources here, our land, our capital, our enterprise, our labor as an economy, that cost, those limited resources that are expended to produce all of these things create scarcity. So one of the defining features of economics is scarcity, which deals with how people satisfy unlimited wants and needs with limited resources. So scarcity affects the monetary value people place on goods and services and how governments and private firms decide to distribute resources. So think about things in maybe a market economy that cost a lot. Okay. The reason they cost a lot of money is because they're scarce, because they only produce so many of those things. I always think of sneakers or tennis shoes, people that collect sneakers, Jordans. I don't know what other shoes they collect. That's the one that I know of for sure. And the cost of those new Jordans is relative to the demand for that. And we'll get into supply and demand and all that. But that demand creates scarcity. Okay, so that's what we're talking about when we talk about scarcity in economics. So hopefully that has helped a little bit as you go through this unit. Keep those things in mind, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.